Okay, so we are live. So we just chill for the first minute or so. Welcome. If you're on live with me, Untitled the Happy Coach on Tuesday evenings. Thank you
Thank you for
for
having
joining me.
me.
Yep,
Mhm.
and I have a special guest with us today, Michelle. So she's a single parent of two beautiful girls, and she will share a little bit about her own story and hope it will encourage everyone out there. Yep. So without further ado, welcome Michelle. Let's put our hands together. Welcome Michelle.
So weird right nowadays. Everything is like online and like
Yeah.
not in front of an audience.
Yeah. So you
Do
can hear us,
you?
right? Just type in yes or good evening. Yep. Good evening if
Um,
you join us to the
the
audience. Yep.
honor, Thai. Actually, the
Yeah.
on the Facebook, or maybe my internet is just slow. It's not actually live yet. So
Yeah. I think there'll be a slight lag, but it's okay. Yep.
okay.
So we'll jump straight into the story, the main character of the
Uh,
play, Michelle. Yep.
I don't know where to start actually.
Okay, tell us about
So,
the biggest event of your life, the challenge, about your divorce.
um,
Yeah, okay, and how you got over that very big hurdle.
Okay, for those that just joined us again, thank you, Ty, for having me on your evening show. I've heard that you've done this for a couple of years now, or a couple of months for this
Couple of
year,
months.
at least.
Yep. Not
Yeah,
yet.
a couple of months. Yeah. But anyway, like though I'm pretty quiet in the group chat, so I think your positive attitude is something that is very refreshing. More
Thank you.
people
Thank
should
you.
have it. Yeah, especially on social media platforms. I'll draw back on that later because
Mm-hmm.
on my social media platform, especially on my Instagram, I'm trying to reach out to the single parent community, not just Singapore, but
Mm-hmm.
all over the world, basically, to tell them that divorce is not the end. It's not something you should be ashamed of. Sometimes
Yep.
it happens, and it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not all pleasant. It doesn't all end on a happy note, but it's
Yeah.
okay. And I feel that nowadays, even in this modern day and time, people are still
Mm-hmm.
having this huge stigma about being separated.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
it's not necessary. Yeah, I think it's not necessary. I don't know how about your circle of friends. How do they feel about this kind of situation? Like, is it awkward for them?
Actually, I think my personal perspective, maybe the older generation, so maybe the generations of our parents. My parents is born in the 50s, post war Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for their generation and for even older folks, they do have a certain perception of divorce and
Mm-hmm.
um, and in fact, my parents, their marriage, of course, there's ups and downs because my
Yeah,
my,
of
my
course.
dad is hardly at home because of his
Mm-hmm.
work nature. He's a sailor. He has to sail
Yeah.
on board the ship. So, but what kept them together? It was really they just decided to stick together. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
and I think because people of their generation they view divorce in a certain manner, so
Mm-hmm.
they just decided to stick through thick and thin. They are in love, but of course, it could always be better lah, as in any relationship. But of our generation, they have a slightly more open and more accepting
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
opinion towards single parents and towards divorce. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of
Mm-hmm.
my close friends, he
Mm-hmm.
actually divorced from his wife because I think the main reason what came between them was actually their work. So they were too engrossed in their own
Mm-hmm.
respective careers. So over time they drifted apart. They were together, I think, almost 10 years and married for I think about 6 years or 5 6 years. It's quite a long time. Um, there wasn't any children in the in the relationship,
Picture.
lah. So
Yeah.
that that leaves out a few complications. Yeah, unlike yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think people of our generation and younger view divorce with a more open and different attitude compared to older generation. So that's my own view of that. How about what was your experience? What was your experience through this particular
Uh,
part?
like I mentioned just now,
Mm-hmm.
I said though it's probably a little bit more accepted these days, but there is still kind of a stigma. Acceptance and stigma is still a little bit different, as in a
Mm-hmm.
definition wise.
Yeah.
It's like people are kind of tippy toey around, like, oh, you're a single parent, what should I say about it? Is it sensitive? This all these kind of things. But I think in general, what a single parent needs is just a community where they can seek
Mm-hmm.
support and help. Basically, that's all they need, unless they have a really strong, family relationship. But
Mm-hmm.
I realize that a lot of the single parents don't have that.
Yeah.
So I think friends in this situation is very important. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been very lucky. I have a wonderful group of friends.
Yeah.
Because my family is
Yeah.
complicated. So, but I've always been able to count on them in really scary and difficult situations. So, without that
Mm-hmm.
mental support, I think maybe I wouldn't have pulled through as well as I did
Mm-hmm.
today. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I think a bit back to my backstory.
Yeah.
Today, I was really piqued. My interest was piqued because you're a motivational coach, right?
Yeah.
And I do like to do motivational speaking in some sort,
Mm-hmm.
though it's more through
Mm-hmm.
social
Mm-hmm.
media. Um, so today, my story, I hope when I tell the story, it will make people think and maybe rethink their views on their life currently,
Yeah.
because not all is lost.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely easier said than done. I'm just gonna have this disclaimer first. It's definitely easier said than done, but I would like to
Mm.
say I've been in many unfortunate situations, but it doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
my life is miserable. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I did not grow up in Singapore. I actually grew
Mm-hmm.
up in Europe, and then many people
Yep.
are like, "Oh, so cool! You grew up in Europe," and etc. etc. I'm like, yeah. And then usually, if I don't know them too well, I'm like, yeah, yeah, it was cool. It was okay. I liked the four seasons. However, my closer friends and my family,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, they will know the backstory of growing up in Europe.
Yep.
I grew up in the Netherlands, which is right above
Mm.
France and Belgium. It's a little country where they are famous for their clock shoes and cheese, if you recall, and their
Yeah.
tulips. So I lived in this little
And the
town. I was
windmills.
and the windmills, the
Okay.
cheese and the windmills. So I think I moved there when I was about two. I was only
Mm-hmm.
2 years old, so I had totally no recollection of Singapore at all. So basically, the Netherlands was my home country for a good 14 and a half years.
Mm.
Due to family circumstances, I will not go into that. It's a long
Yeah.
story. My
Okay.
mom moved there, and we lived happily for quite some time. The thing is that living
Mm-hmm.
there was very taxing emotionally, because in a little town like that, they were quite xenophobic, actually, meaning racist
Yeah.
in short.
Okay.
So I would be called all kinds of names. Any name you can think you could label an Asian, like you're yellow skin, small eye, you look stupid, you
Ching
never
chong.
find a boyfriend, yeah, ching chong chang. So it was really tough, because as a kid you can't absorb that. You're not as strong yet, like, and
Yeah.
especially for a person like me, like, people look at me now like, are you sure? I used to be super shy. I was introverted. I was unable to stand up for myself. I was basically not defending myself when I was told all
Mm-hmm.
those, and they would like tear my school books, take my homework, puncture my bicycle tires when I had to like cycle 7 clicks in the winter, just because they didn't
Wow.
like my race. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, I look back, I'm like, wow, like they were really nasty, but like, and I was so affected by it that I carried on this, I had a very lowered self-esteem. I thought I was that, I was ugly, I was less smart than the rest. I just, I wasn't even good enough to be average. That's how I felt for a good period of my life. I was in primary school. I think that's how you compare it to over here. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
And it's a bit
Primary
hard
school
sometimes to compare.
will be from the age of 7. But let me just pause you for a while. I think we have quite a few people on board. So I think there's 28
okay.
people with us right now.
Okay.
So if you just joined us, welcome.
Okay, hi. I
Today
can't
my
see.
guest, 30. I have 30 on. So welcome on board to the live conversations with Happy Coach Yun Type. And today's guest is Michelle, and she's sharing on her personal life story. So Michelle is a single parent of 2 beautiful kids, and we are just at the start of her journey when she was actually in Netherlands. So if you have any questions for Michelle or for myself, feel free to type in the chat box. If we are just around, just want to listen to the story, give a shout out as well. Hello. And Michelle, yeah. So I understand that it was a pretty not an easygoing childhood for you, and in a foreign country and a foreign culture, and being called names and all that at a very young age. How do you feel at that point of time, and how did it affect you as you are growing up?
I was definitely quite weak mentally, I would say, when I was young. Because like I said, I would never stand up for myself. I could never, the moment where you're like, oh, they say something mean to you and you're like, you feel scared, taken aback because you're still young. And then you go home and you have this wonderful comeback in your head, but it never came out in real life. But that was like my everyday struggle. I was so afraid to go to school that I would cry myself to sleep sometimes. And I would wake up in the morning and I would literally kneel by my bed saying, please let this be a day where I'm just invisible. It sounds almost like a cartoon or some kind of like bad movie, but where you see the kid being bullied and stuff. But it was like that for me every day. I was so afraid to go to school. And after a couple of years in the Netherlands, my family situation wise, as in my parents, wasn't great as well. So it was being afraid of school, even of the teachers, and being afraid even to go home as well, because it was always fight every day. It was not just mentally, but physically as well, fighting. I had 2 younger brothers, which I tried somewhat to take care of while struggling myself. So I think it wasn't a great child, I would say, but I believe it did shape me to the person I am today. I never blamed my parents. I also never blamed the people surrounding me that used to bully me, because I feel like thank you, because you made me what I am today. I'm much stronger mentally. I feel I'm much more capable of a lot more things. I can actually influence people to think more positively. And in turn, even though all these so-called unbecomings happened to me, I never gave up on being positive, like looking forward and say, hey, actually this changed me for the better. This is what I can do in life, and I can tell people, hey, I went through this, and maybe you went through that. But the thing is, even if you're thrown a challenge, no matter what form it comes, never give up. Never say like, that's it. I'm just gonna like lay down my life and let them roll over me. It's just not the right way to live a life, basically. And this is what I'm teaching my kids now as well.
Yep. Right. So that's quite a lot to digest. So when you were at that stage, right? Do you ever feel alone, or was there anyone or anything that offered you some kind of support?
By the time I got to secondary school,
Mhm.
college in Holland, I had this teeny tiny tight group of friends finally. I guess because people also started growing up, kind of. So, but I belong to what you would label the outcast.
So
I
you
wasn't
are
like
the are you by yourself, or is there one or two others with you in the outcast?
so in schools, like there's always these stereotypes, right? Okay, the jockeys
Yep.
and the sports
Yep.
people, they're popular, and then you have the really weird ones, which they label as weird gothic punk or something. And I was like in between the jockeys and the gothic punk, so we were like the little outcast, nerdy, okay people. Like we studied and we were just really normal, actually, when I look back at it. So there were like, I think about 4 or 5 of us. Yeah, 4 or 5. It wasn't too bad. Still wasn't able to stand up for myself during secondary school, sadly enough. The bullying still continued, even though I had a group of friends, because obviously they were bullied as well. And throughout my school life, I've been told many times to give up, even by the teachers. Like my music teacher told me I was good enough for music, that I'm musically deaf, so I should just give up. And I was only like 10. And then they also told me to give up on dancing. I was like, okay. And I had this ballet teacher that would punish me for no reason as well, just because I was Chinese.
That's
Yeah, so that was my school life and my childhood, basically. So, and when I was about 16 and a half, that's when my family came back to Singapore. Because my grandmother was dying and she wasn't doing too well. So we came back, and again, other family issues. So we came back, and my parents actually split up. And because I cut the story short earlier on, I didn't tell you that I went through a divorce with my mom in my earlier years, and then we had another separation in my later years. It means in my late teens. So I sat through these 2 divorces with my mom. It wasn't easy. And then coming back to Singapore was another challenge, because I never wrote or read English in my entire life. And I had to come back here
So you
and
had to
study
relearn everything.
everything. I was pushed back to secondary school while I was actually so-called in A levels in Holland. In A levels, kind of the standards, but I was pushed back to O levels in Singapore, and I had 1.5 years to finish my O level, that short only, and everything was in English. I was panicking. I was so scared, man. I was so scared. I was like, shit, am I gonna make this? Oh, sorry, censored. Like, I really thought I'm not gonna make it, so studied like mad, and eventually passed my O levels, and all in English, because previously I was studying everything in Dutch, everything, even my English was studied in Dutch. So yeah, sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, like I've been through all these amazing events. Like, how did I make it? How did I push myself through? And I think it was a lot of mental grit. Friends also. When I came back to Singapore, somehow I got so many more friends, maybe because I'm kind of one together. Like I'm back in my so-called environment. Like everyone here is Chinese or Malay or Indian. It's Asian.
Yep.
So are there any questions in between, so I can take a little break?
Not yet, but
Not yet.
I can. I have questions. So
Okay.
you're saying that you had to come back, and then you got to adjust to everything again, and then you had to learn a new language. So was there anyone that helped you along the way, or anybody that helped you to adjust and to make you feel better? And because I understand that there's also a lot of changes going on in your family. Yeah. So what was the how do you manage to survive through all this without ever feeling like you're alone, or feeling like you want to give up? Or were there periods of time that you really feel alone and you feel that that you want to give up, you want to just maybe go back to Netherlands or whatever?
No, I did not think of going back because I was obviously still quite young at that point of time. But periods where silly ideas came to my mind, like why do I have this kind of life? Like, why is it just me, and why is it that I don't have a dad again? Like, because my parents separated, right? So I had all these questions, and sometimes I wish that maybe I should just end life right here and there. There were times like these, like those were the real down moments. I mean, I have to acknowledge I'm also human.
Yeah.
And I did not have many people to lean on when it came to family situations. But in terms of school, I'm really, really grateful because I had wonderful teachers. They were there even after school hours. They knew my situation, and they wanted to make sure, that I could catch up. And I also had wonderful classmates that made sure that I had all the textbooks from Sec 1 to 3, so I could catch up as well. And they would tutor me. And yes, actually, I'm really grateful for those people.
Was there anyone who played the father figure in your life, that some male mentor that you could look up to?
Yes, of course. The one that raised me was my stepdad. He has been there since I was a little girl, and all the way. I still keep in touch with him today, and I'm really grateful. He's just still around as my. I wouldn't even call him just father figure. Like he's just my dad. Like that's all I know.
Yeah.
So for my real dad, that is probably still around somewhere. I don't know him. Not really. I mean, I know him by name and face, but like he never played part in raising me. So yeah. So yes, I'm really thankful that I do have a father figure in my life, which I can call dad and look up to and find support in.
So what was the good meaning that you get out of all this difficult situation? Because to be very honest, your childhood sound like it's my childhood was so much more. I was much more fortunate and blessed compared to you, because even though my dad was because he had to work, so I don't get to see much, right? So he sails every 6 months, then he will be back for 2 months. So I only see him like 25% of the time. But my mom was she was a homemaker, so she quit her job after my brother and I entered the primary school, 7 years old. So she played the role of mom and dad. Yeah, so I think my childhood was much more smooth sailing compared to yours, because I was in the same environment, quite cozy environment. I mean, I wish I could see my dad more. Yeah, that's one thing I wish for. But I know that he has to go out and earn a living. But other than that, I think I was very fortunate. So but I think here's the thing, and this is something that I really believed, that tough times don't last, tough people do, and what doesn't break you make you stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
correct.
yeah. So what was the positive thing or positive lessons that you get out of this difficult period of time, even as a young child?
I do remember that I did a lot of comparing when I was a little child, which now I know better. Like you're saying, like you had a cozier childhood, but like to me, I wouldn't compare it. So like, because we all have our own challenges, which we had to face ourselves, and to different people, a challenge means different difficulty levels. So in actual fact, comparing is not like, it's not something I would encourage. What I would compare to is myself, my own life. Like, what was it then? What is it now? So to come back to this point is that I was told so many no's, right? When I was a little kid, like you're ugly, you're small-eyed, you're Chinese, you'll never get married, not get a boyfriend, you cannot do music, you cannot dance. But now, more than 20 years down the road, I continued dancing, and from Camembert, I became front row dancer. My technique was never strong, but I worked very hard for it. In a way, for me, in my heart, that is continuing music in a different kind of setting as well, dancing and music, basically.
Yep.
So if I can hear music means, and I can dance on the beat, means I kind of defeated the challenge of saying, no, you shouldn't do music. That's what I saw. That's what I compare in my own life. Then he said, oh, I'm ugly, etc., all these kind of things, all the racist remarks and stuff like that. And I came here and I actually took up the courage to join a beauty pageant under Lumiere International, and I won the title, Miss Singapore 2016, actually. Yeah. And from there, I went on to the international platform, a bit like Miss Universe. If you win the title in Singapore, you have to go to the Miss Universe International. So I did that, and I got top 10.
How did you pluck up the courage to enroll in all those competitions? Because for myself, entering a contest, a beauty contest is something that I never have thought about, because I don't have the courage to step forth. So how do you manage to step out and put yourself up to this challenge? What motivated you, or what?
Like I mentioned earlier on, it really relates back to my childhood. Like there were always naysayers, like putting me down, and it's like, okay, through this platform, this pageant, I think I can show them like I'm beauty, but also brains. Like, because pageant is also about using the platform, how to reach out to people, how to help the community. So it wasn't like an all-in-one for me. It's never just about the looks. Of course, that's a bonus. And when I won it, it affirmed me that by me putting myself through this challenge and motivate myself and to put me on to so-called a higher level in my own life, I said, hey, I made it, and I'm putting down all those doubts. I was still self-conscious, to be very honest. But I said, if I don't do this, I might be stuck with this for the rest of my life, and I don't want that. So that's how I just pushed myself to go for this competition. And it was a great, great journey. I will never regret it. Never regret it.
So would you encourage your daughters to take part in such competition?
If they want to, I will be their number one supporter for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what else was there? Like basically, and then in between, while I was in Singapore, I got married. So to cut the chase to my marriage and everything, many red flags which I didn't see. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. I don't feel right, because it's still another person, even though it's my ex-spouse. But there were basically just many red flags, not just financially, but everything else. And to me, if I'm a second choice, I mean, maybe in your eyes, I'm not worth it, but that doesn't mean like, I know there are still a lot of people these days that think like we should stay together for the children, especially in a woman's point of view. They're so afraid that they can't give their kids a whole family, a complete family. But honestly, I feel that even though separated, it doesn't mean you're not able to give your children a whole family. Compare it to giving them a whole so-called a whole family physically, but one of the parents are never around, or you're staying with somebody else you like better. And then that's showing your children, especially from a woman's point of view, a daughter, that it's okay to be married to a man that doesn't stay with us. It's okay to be in this kind of marriage and relationship, which I feel personally is very unhealthy. Even though I didn't drop the D word first, divorce, Because I was still hoping, of course, not for the children so much, but more for my relationship with my ex-spouse. But he dropped the divorce word first, and I said, okay, I mean, I think this is the end, and it's not a world or a family I want to bring my children up in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not right. And I think we can do better without him. I mean, so that's the shortcut version of our separation. And ever since the birth of my second child, which is in 2017, I've been pretty much on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say I'm happier. I feel much lighter now. Much lighter. It's hard to explain, but I just feel happier in general. Like I don't have to worry about, what is he doing outside. I think vice versa, whether I were the husband or the wife. I mean, what is he or she doing outside? Why do I still have to keep checking on him? It's very tiring. It's a draining relationship. And when one person is trying so hard to keep things up, but the other one is not actually bothering about it, then I think it's time to say, okay, we have to call it quits. This is not something you should show your children, that you should keep trying to repair something that doesn't want to be repaired, basically.
Yeah. So what would be your advice based on your experience of let's say someone who's going through they have been together for a while, but suddenly they realize that there's no spark in the relationship, or they are slowly drifting apart? What are some of the advice that you might want to give them? Because I think for my friends, they got married to their work, so they drifted apart, and then they got both parties had fought. They just pursued, and career became the third party in the relationship. So what would be your advice for people who are together to keep the relationship going strong?
We were also together for a decade. But that being said, I feel that's a very difficult question, actually, because like you described, there are actually many different kinds of situations where people drift apart or just grow apart. If one of them is work, I think maybe you really have to relook into the lifestyle. There's this saying, I can't really exactly remember what it is. I mean, like, you're married to your spouse, but not to your work. And no matter how much work you do, if your relationship is suffering because of that, again, it's easier said than done, but I think maybe work should take a backseat. If the other person is important enough to you, maybe there are some things that you need to prioritize. I think in terms of relationship, it's all about, number one, communication. It's the number one factor to keep something going. Number two, with communication, automatically you will have that spark. If you have good communication, that is. That spark will grow through communication. And number three, reprioritizing your entire list of 1, 2, 3. So, what is more important to you, and then lay it down together. Again, back to point number one, communication. Because if we don't prioritize, like for example, it doesn't even matter if it's a marriage. If let's say it's my children or your children, if I were to be married to my job, my children be like probably left with a nanny or whatever, not being cared for. Same goes for a spouse. And if another spouse feels that, I'm not taken care of, I'm not listened to, that's where the drifting apart happens. So again, back to the 3 points. So communication will grow the spark, and with communication you can, number 3, list down all your priorities. What do you think is more important? And I think from there are a lot of things that can be discussed. So it's a difficult question, actually, because it really depends.
There's no perfect answers.
No, there is definitely no perfect answer.
I'll just say that it's actually a journey. It's a commitment that you make to your partner. I think it applies beyond just marriage as well. I think it applies with your parents, your children, your siblings. So the communication, absolutely, I agree. So I'm also working on communicating with my partner. it's still
I'm
working.
sure you.
Yeah, we are working towards, committed to making it work. So now we move on. How did you get over that separation, and how did you master the courage to soldier on and look after two kids on your own? Because I understand it must have been really tough to bring two children up on yourself.
I came when I made the discovery that we really can't be selfish and there's somebody else. It was another down point in my life. It was so deep and I was still going through a little bit of postnatal depression as well with my second child. My postnatal depression was 1 year before, about a year. And again, those silly thoughts came back. I was taken by shock as well. Like I haven't had like suicidal thoughts for many, many years after leaving Netherlands. So I have to really thank some very close family members, majority friends that they were there, and they gave me this super strong support, like kind of like gave me a temporary backbone in a way. And I think that is very important. And even though I would say I'm quite strong in character, I'm generally very positive. But no matter how positive a person, it's like a battery, you have to be recharged at one point in time. And I'm very grateful that these loved ones, they actually came, you could say they came to my rescue. And they're like, hey, like Michelle, it's time. And then after I got pulled out, I looked at my girls and I said, yeah, we can have a better life. It's okay. Like it's normal. It's like it's common. And sometimes when I have to explain to the kids, like sometimes they ask me questions like, why is it this? Why is it that our family is like this? I just explain to them it's common. Like it happens, and sometimes it's better like that. And I had to tell myself that over and over again as well. It's okay, because I always promised myself when I was a girl, I would never let this happen to my kids, like what my parents did last time. It happened, and there was no stopping it, basically. And I would like to tell all the other parents, whether you're together still or not, if you're struggling, I would more say the friends out there, and maybe loved ones, family members. If you have anybody close to you that you know or you feel like they might be struggling, let them open up to you if it's possible. Let them talk to you. Sometimes all they need is just a listening ear. And if they want advice, they will definitely tell you, like, maybe not advice, but like comforting words, telling them that they can be strong, because that's usually what I do. Sometimes I have a random single mom just DMing me on Instagram saying, oh, hey, I've been reading your stories and, I felt stronger after that. And that's the part which I'm like, yes, like, my story is making an impact. Like, don't give up. It's not worth throwing your life away just because, bad relationship happens. It's temporary.
Yeah. So are you actively reaching out to single mothers, like, and how are you reaching out to them, and how can someone, if they happen to be watching live, how can someone who needs help, how can they reach out to you?
Okay, so not so much on my Facebook. If they want, they could approach me on Facebook, but I'm more focused on Instagram, like I've mentioned several times. So usually I just use hashtags, and sometimes they find me through that. If not,
which hashtags do you normally use?
Like single mom life, single parents,
right.
Or just SG mom, all these kind of things. And sometimes they find me through that, which I find pleasantly surprising. If not, you could always follow my Instagram profile. It's MIXUEWR. So you can just hop on and follow me. My profile is public. What I do with my posts is that social media is usually about painting the perfect view, the perfect life. The thing is, I always
Yeah.
like to inject a little bit of raw reality in it. Like, yes, of
Mm-hmm.
course, I want nice pictures too and stuff like that. But like, usually what I write is what I really feel, what
Mm.
happened to me, what I experienced, and how. And through those stories, I hope people can relate. I think that's the biggest factor here, that people feel that the post is relatable. So
Yeah.
they kind of project their own image on it and say, oh, hey, like I could do it differently. I could view my life differently as well. So I
Yeah.
hope I'm helping people in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you brought out a very good point that on social media we always try to paint a rosy picture, and sometimes even for myself included, sometimes when we go through challenges or dark periods of time, we don't like to show too much or portray too much on social
Yeah.
media, after all it's in the public. So my question is, how do we then detect, or how do we reach out to people who might be going through difficult time, and how do we give them the space, and how do we strike a balance between giving them space to go through certain emotional grief and all that, and how do we reach out to them effectively to make sure that they are okay, and they know that help is around, that they know that they are not going through this alone.
You ask really difficult questions.
Right. Noel,
um,
just share opinions. There's no right or wrong answers here.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, because I think every situation calls for a different kind of approach.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think only it's easier for us to detect maybe negative feelings or from a closer one. That means friends that are
Yes.
slightly
Yeah.
closer or family
Yeah.
members. But the scary part here is that some of them can look so happy, and then the next day they're just gone. I know a few of those friends that
Mm.
have people just taking their life for no reason at all. Not maybe not no reason, but like they seem so happy and stuff like that, and they didn't open up.
Yeah.
And the next day they just But however, if let's say you do feel like there's someone close to you that's in need, sometimes if you just open up yourself, like this is called empathy,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
try to, because now we're so absorbed, like always, you're always on the phone, we are looking at our social media, browsing, we're always stuck in our heads, in our own world because of all this
Mm.
technology.
Mm. Mm.
But sometimes the way a person writes or the way a person talks to you sometimes can feel, oh, that's like something that's off. And then all
Mm.
you have to do is just look at them like, if you need me, I'm here. Or you just do like little stuff for them, buy them a little, breakfast or a muffin and then put it there. Sometimes I leave little notes for my friends, say, hey, it's a great day. I hope you're good. I think
Yeah.
the little
I think that's
touches,
very important. Yeah. I think that's very
yeah,
important. I think it's the
the little
little.
touches
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
make them open up to you, basically. They know you're in reach because we are so distant from each other these days.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I think even more so during this difficult period of time, and the economy is down and everything. I think the little touches matter even more. Yeah, so it's a good reminder for all of us, I guess, to constantly reach out to our friends, to just drop them a text, or even better, you can drop them a call, or even better, if you can drop them a visit. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
correct.
is very
Correct.
important, because I think we may never know what goes on behind the facade that someone is painting on social media or on outside. Yeah, we may never know until we actually reach out and actually try to be more involved in the person, but of course not in an intrusive point of view, but more of
Yes.
a caring and empathetic, coming from a caring and empathetic perspective.
Correct.
And yeah, I guess that is a reminder for all of us. And I think my next question will be, how can then we then um, reach out to especially in your case will be like single parents, and what are the needs, what are some of the needs that a single parent may have in terms of the emotions and in terms of the support, what kind of support would
This is another very good point and question actually. I think it's not doesn't apply just to single parent only because more than often it's either the mom or dad. One of them sometimes tends to work a lot more, so the other half is always alone with the kids. And being alone with the children almost 24/7, 365 a year, it's really draining. You love them a lot, I'm sure. So what I like to do is sometimes I just say, hey, if you need a me time day, like, just drop the kids with me. No, it's fine. There's no need to feel guilty. Just a few, even if it's just a few hours, you're gonna take a nap, or you want to run a groceries, or you want me to run a groceries for you. This again, the little things, giving them space to breathe, so that they can come back to themselves. Because being a parent is totally different from being an adult, just like an average adult, because it's so all absorbent. Yeah, all your energy goes into them, your attention, your whatever, basically. But that being said, again, like we humans are, we need to recharge. So for me, I always like to extend that support, and I have received that kind of support as well. Like, hey, if you're really, really sick, just call on me. If you really, really have an emergency, call on me. If we can, we will take the kids if we need to. And it happened a few times. And there was once also like I had to admit my youngest to the hospital. It was already COVID period. She didn't have COVID, but we were, just to want to make sure. And I got separated from my big girl, and she's still very young, and she was crying. And then immediately a friend said, "Hey, I'm hopping down with my mom. I'm coming to get your daughter, the one that got separated, so that because me and my youngest, we got quarantined in the hospital. We weren't allowed to be anywhere near her. This is the kind of support I'm talking about. It when you really need them, they're just like there in flick of a finger.
Yeah, that's what
that's love. Yeah. So I feel that reach out to your friends or your family if you need that kind of help. Let them know you're there, so that they don't feel like they're alone.
That's a very good point. So to my viewers out there, if you agree with this, just type in the chat box support. And it's also a reminder to offer support to your friends wherever you can, especially those with children, because it's not easy to bring up children, and especially at different phases of life. Sometimes it can be very difficult, certain phases of life. Yeah, so just type in support if you agree at this point, or it's a reminder of yourself to support other people when you can. Or ask, I think also very importantly, ask for help when you really need help. Because you brought up a very good point that we are like a battery, so we also need time to recharge. So we can't just run indefinitely. The power will drain. We will need some me time, even as parents, or even I think even for couples without kids as well. Sometimes I think we need our me time. Yeah.
Yes,
so that is absolutely very important. All right. So if you have any questions, actually we already passed our time, but just if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Just one final question for Michelle and we'll wrap this up. So Michelle, going forward, what's the next few years going to look like, and what are you looking forward to?
Very good question. Wow.
Take your time.
Really and moving forward, I think I always look forward to self-improvement. No matter what kind of achievements I have made to today, I think I can always do better. And especially because I need to set an example for my girls. So what I'm most looking forward to actually right now is like, I I've already moved on from my broken relationship, so that's already achieved this year. But yeah, finally, I would really look forward to just seeing the girls grow up and make sure they have a life that I probably didn't really have. So show them that there are good things in life. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, but with struggles, it's all good. So in the next couple of years, I love my job, so I hope I'll still be there, which I think I will.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Probably growing my job and growing my girls and have a happy family. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just saw one question by Kevin. So he actually asked, right? It's actually a very good question. Sorry, Kevin, I didn't see it earlier. So how did the conversation, the divorce, this is a bit tricky. How did the divorce conversation start between yourself and your ex-partner?
It was a little dramatic. I would like to leave the drama parts out, but basically, I caught him in a way with that so-called third party, and confronted him, and eventually of course, our parents came down because it was really serious at that point, as in both side parents sat down, had a long talk, and at the end, he decided that he had no feelings, and it's time, that we divorced. That's the nice way to put it, in a way. Yeah. So from there, I said, yeah, I think this is really the end. Let's just do it, and we did it amicably. Actually, we did it, and no long fights and discussions and stuff like that. Yeah, and also probably because he acknowledged that I would be the one more capable of taking care of the kids. So it was, it was how to say, we did mutual discussions, so it wasn't much of a fight. It's better for the kids as well.
Right. So actually, I wasn't able to see some of the comments on Facebook because of some weird because my Facebook post was actually public. So what happened was I think StreamYard doesn't work too well with my Facebook profile.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't see it.
StreamYard switched my comments to friends only. So only then I'm now able to see. So thank you, Jasmine.
No.
Jasmine was she logged on. Jasmine Tan, Jimmy Lim as well, Johnny Lai, Yvonne Lien. Lien is also so she.
Yvonne.
Kevin Chan was the one who asked the question. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming on. One way. She said, "Yeah, gorgeous."
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed your company tonight, and Michelle, thank you for coming on board. So, how can people connect to you on your Instagram? Once again, maybe you can just.
You could put it in the comments later on. If not, you just search for me.
Just type in
MIX. Sure. MIXUEWR.
We are.
Yeah.
Right. So if you would like to connect with Michelle, she's on Instagram at the username MIXUEWR. Once again, it's MIXUEWR. Thank you, Michelle. Then thank you guys. Enjoyed having your company, spending 1 hour with us. Hope that you have learned something. And if you know of people who might be going through a difficult time, whether as a parent or whether because of the situation, feel free to let Michelle know if you can help in any way, or feel free to reach out to myself or to Michelle. We'll be more than happy to help. And of course, don't forget to keep reaching out to your friends and family members. Keep in touch with them on a daily basis. I think that's the best way you can ensure that everybody is doing okay during this time, especially during this time. Yep. So thank you, and see you next weekend, next Tuesday. Happy man, happy coach here, and have a good evening ahead, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and have a great week ahead. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.